Yeah, I think it's a balancing act in a lot of ways, especially with some of the games that we've played so far. You know, games that are really coming down to, you know, almost every possession of, you know, being critical. So, you know, I think you just got to be smart. You know, one nice thing that I feel really comfortable in, you've seen, you know, more guys get in at the running back spot in the last 2 weeks. You know, Johnny's been getting, you know, more carries. Sheldon's done a nice job. You know, Kane and Mike are guys that we know are available to us, and we got to probably continue to find ways to use them. So, you know, I think it is a balancing act. And, you know, if it was perfect and if I had the perfect answer, I would tell you. But I think when it's critical situations, you want to put the ball in your best player's hands. And, you know, I'm not naive to that, and that's something I really believe in. So, you know, and I think what we've seen is David really start to play, you know, I think gotten into a great rhythm the last 2 weeks. And so, you know, he's playing some of his best football right now as a true running back, maybe the best I've seen him play over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, you know, really just I banged up even I'll be honest with you, in that first carry that he had this football season in our rainout game, you know, and you know, dinged up, nothing terrible, but has just kind of been, like I said, a lot of it's just deep bruising and pain that you just got to fight through, and so not easy, and a lot of credit to him of how he's playing with, you know, not being 100%, but unfortunately at running back, it's a position that, you know, other than maybe the early part of fall camp, do you ever feel like you're 100%, so he's a pretty tough cookie. Well, you know, again, you play a defense like that's going to, you know, they're going to challenge you in a multitude of different ways, and the unique thing is you're going to play a very similar style defense now, you know, with what Oklahoma State's doing on the defensive side of the football. And I do think the one thing that was growth for Zeb is, you know, turn the ball over, you're not playing your best football game, and yet when that team and our team needed you the most to make a play, he made a play. And, you know, I think that's a credit to him. And, you know, you look statistically after the football game, is it the best football game he's ever played? No. And, you know, but I still felt like him being able to make that play was a good confidence booster for him. We go down, we score, you know, we put the game back in the opportunity to win a football game. But, you know, I think for him, it's part of the growing process. And, you know, the growing process is he's a 4-game starter, you know, that's continuing to grow and continuing to play through it. And that's the first time he's had to play really against a level of opponent in terms of defensive football of that magnitude, in my opinion, you know, going into that football game. And so, I saw him work through it. And it's not just Zeb, you know, you got to get open, you got to make some tough catches, we got to be able to do all those things. And so I think as we look at our passing game, how else can we continue to help him out too and help some of those receivers out in some of those situations? Let's answer the ceiling part. You know, he's as talented of anybody that we've brought in here in terms of just physical God-given ability. It's through the roof. You know, he's a guy that probably, you know, Coach Brome, he could probably go over there and in some way, shape, or form be on the basketball court. And he's just his God-given ability athletically is through the roof, you know, and he's a guy that in terms of learning the game of football, what's fascinating to me is sometimes when you're still learning the game of football, you lack a sense of physicality and you lack a sense of maybe awareness, but it's quite the opposite. He's got elite awareness, he's got high-end physicality, and so I think what you're going to see from Will is the ability to continue to grow and better himself, and I think it's going to be, the sky is the limit for where he can go in terms of player. Where he's at right now and how we continue to use him, I think we just got to continue to be smart. We got to feed him enough to where he can be effective, but we also have to be intelligent enough to say, you know, we are really fortunate in some of those areas. We got some guys that are playing really good football too, and you know, it's a good problem to have, and it's kind of this balancing act that it's new for us. You know, we've got a lot of guys at our disposal, and we got to continue to do a great job of what's too much and what's not enough, and making sure our best players are on the field. You know, for Braxton, in 2 areas that if I started the beginning part of the football season, I would have said that are major concerns for me in terms of they got to prove themselves, would have been the offensive line and certainly would have been at safety. And what Braxton has done in its 4 games, so there's a lot of football left to play, and we got a lot to continue to prove. But what he's done for that safety group, it's been really fun to watch. He has literally given us a chance to be maybe as steady as we've been since we've been there, and certainly Greg has been a huge piece of that, and Lawrence continuing to grow. But you know, his work ethic, what he's put into it, he's one of the hardest working players in our football program. He's the guy that shows up every day, and I think for me, I recognize Braxton honestly year one, and when we first got here, that first winter workout, we were searching for, like, these are our kind of guys, these guys fit our mold, and how he carried himself, how he worked, what his intangibles were. I think we all were like, boy, this guy's really impressive. And then you saw the next year he plays on special teams, and everything you gave Braxton and every opportunity that he got, he took advantage of it. And I think the guys that have succeeded over the last 2.5 years here, they've kind of had the same theme. Got their opportunity, prepared for their opportunity, and then have flourished with their opportunity. And certainly Braxton's doing that for us right now. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this game is any different than, you know, some of the last couple games in terms of, and I said this last night, every game's got a different tempo. Every game's got a different set of how do you manage it, how do you give yourself the best opportunity when the scoreboard ends to win the football game. And as you're still mitigating through, you know, a lot of different scenarios, and especially a team that has really good talent, like I would say Oklahoma State, they're a talented football team, then you got to continue to find the ways, the rhythm of that football game to give you a chance to be successful. And you're right, you know, the last 2 years we played, we've been able to find that rhythm at times, and, you know, at times we've lost that rhythm in the game just enough to cost us the football game. So, you know, they create pressure for you because you know they're going to make big plays. I think right now, statistically in the Big 12, maybe they're leading the Big 12 in big play, explosive plays. They're going to push the ball down the field. Their running back is, you know, they're going to hand it to him 25 times a game, and he's going to get some big plays. So what that does to the flow of the football game, and especially, you know, on the other side of it, is how do you help your defense out? How do you give that ebb and flow in the football game? And so, you know, those things are probably going to happen in the game, and we'll play good defense, but they do a tremendous job of creating big plays and giving themselves opportunities in the game. Well, I think you have to talk about it. You know, I think that, again, there's too much social media, there's too much out there to be naive to say, hey, listen, you know, we're 1-3 football team, that's honest. And, you know, the reality of it is, you know, in our room and in these walls, there's a lot of growth that's happened from, you know, even if you said where we were at the end of last football season to where we are as a football team today, we're a completely different football team in a football program. But the reality of it is, the competitor in all of us, we want to win. How do we get there? How do we take the next step? Part of it is you have to negate everybody else, and you got to be able to stay centered on what the job is, and that's hard. You know, it's hard when good things happen, and it's hard when things aren't going great either. And that's why that process, and everybody doesn't want to hear it when it's going good, and everybody doesn't want to hear it when it's going bad, but the reality of it, they don't want to hear it because that's really hard to do. And that's really what success looks like, is your ability to mitigate all that, stay the course, keep getting better, fix those areas that need to continue to get better, and make the improvements to take that next step. So that's kind of where we live, and certainly we talk about those things a lot. Yeah, you know, I think Willie is one of those guys that if you cut open just pure talent on our football team, Willie's maybe got as much of it as anybody. You know, he's a guy that he can run like a safety. He's a guy that's physical, maybe one of our best pressure players in terms of, you know, blitz ability, what he can do. And, you know, physical at the point of attack in terms of setting an edge at times in the run game. But I think what Willie's done for himself, and Willie would tell you this, is he's gotten better every year. And, you know, he has really strained to become the best version of himself. And I think what we've seen, at least in the first 4 football games this year, is improvement. Is he perfect yet? No. But is he a guy that I'm really excited because he's working to become that? Yes. And I think for him, you know, the sky's the limit in terms of, somebody asked me that question maybe a year ago, and I said it the same way. The sky's the limit for Willie Harvey. He's a really talented football player, and what I love is he's playing consistent football right now in the first 4 games of the season, and that's good for all of us. Yeah, you know, I think that's been a topic of conversation for all of us, you know, in terms of, offensively staying on the field, defensively getting off the field, switching the field position, and I think those are things that the only way to do it is you got to continue to rep it. You got to continue to practice it. You got to focus on what are we doing well, and maybe what are some of those areas that there's breakdowns, and just continue to hammer away. And it's like red zone last week. We're talking about it, and the reality of it is you just got to go back to work on it. It's something we work on every day. If you guys know us, we're a situational practice team. I don't know if anybody in the country practices situational football more than we do, but it's something that it's a constant focal point, not only of practicing it, but then the who and the how are we getting it done. So really reps, work, and kind of back to the grindstone on it. But I would certainly say the same thing. You're right, that's an area that we must improve. Well, I do think he's one of the real bright spots of the early part of the season, of guys that much like I talked about Braxton, guy that one of the hardest working kids in the program, pound for pound, one of the strongest players in our football program. A guy that, as we know, comes from a really good high school football program, expects to win, knows how to win. And to be honest with you, he's gone about his day-to-day business every day that I've been here with that same mentality and mantra. And so, I think the thing for me about Colin is number one, after, before we went into spring ball, how do we give you a chance to get on the field? Whether it happens or not, how do we at least put you in a position where you can compete to do it? The second thing is, all of a sudden he puts the time, effort, energy, and work ethic into it. And I'll be honest with you, by fall camp, we're like, man, this guy is really playing good football. How do we continue to help this guy? And sooner or later, this guy's going to get an opportunity. And lo and behold, that opportunity comes. And he's really done a great job. In 2 football games, he's graded out, in our Champions Club, which has been really, to be honest with you, been phenomenal to watch. And very few linemen have done that in their first couple starts as an offensive lineman. So I think it'll be really fun to continue to watch his growth and what he does. But what he gives you is he gives you a really strong physical guy that can really run. And so I'm excited for him. That's certainly not a knock on Josh Mueller or anybody else, because we're really excited about Josh's growth. But what's positive is we're able to get a lot of guys kind of competing right now, and you better come to practice and be the best version of yourself, or you might not be in the football game. We do. We have charts that kind of give us some of that. I'll be honest with you. Again, sometimes the flow of the game, that's where you got to make a call in the game and say, yeah, I kind of agree with what the chart's saying, or the chart's a chart, and you got to be able to stand up and make the right call in the game, for where you feel gives you the best chance to keep the flow of the game going. But, I think we've always been aggressive. It's something for me that, we prepare equal to what we do in terms of third down success and efficiency. And sometimes, to be honest with you, we're playing third down to get to fourth down, and so, I think it's one of those situations where, you're just, every game's different, every situation, where you're at on the field, all those things. But we put as much time into fourth down as what we'll do into third down a lot of times, just because, I think it's really critical, and especially when you want to be aggressive at times, to be able to go for it.
Have seen your defense get stops make you feel more comfortable being aggressive?
Yeah, and again, I think each game's different too. I think, how is your defense playing? What's going on? I think what you don't want to do is, the defense doesn't ever want to put the offense in a bad position, and I think offensively you never want to put your defense in a bad position. And I think you got to know your opponent, you got to know the situation, and you got to know what gives you the best opportunity to be successful. Yeah, like I said, I think it's been a situation for us where we've done everything in our power to give our football team a chance to be successful. So, we got to get better in a lot of areas, but I think, again, how do you manage each team? How do you give your team the chance to be successful? And at the end of it, how do you get an opportunity to win the football game? So, we evaluate it, we look at it, and then see how we can continue to move forward and get better.